And now, it is our honor to introduce Judge Camacho, our hero in youth justice reform, whose vision has played a major part in our programming over the years, along with the young people he has inspired in finding new paths for Herstory's Linda Howard Weissman Youth Justice Program at Touro Law Center. Judge Camacho. I gotta leave the stage for these people.
Sure, I want to read the light. I want to read the light inside of us, if that's okay. I'll have it. Actually, do you have it? Thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon. I am so inspired by all of you. I've been doing this for a very long time, and every day you guys show me something new, something better, something more inspiring. Thank you. Thank you all. I want to briefly, I wrote something, a brief piece, thinking about this forum and about how much these young people mean to me. I want to share it with you. It's called The Light Inside of Us. We're born with a light inside of us. The flame of grace, purity, innocence, and goodness shines brightly in our innermost being. It is our spirit, our soul. The world is cruel and unforgiving and causes great suffering. When children suffer, the light dims. To protect the flame, they build armor around it, a solid wall of bricks, mortar, and steel. Sadly, that barrier dims the light even more until it disappears. The eyes go dark, hollow, and dead. I have seen those dark eyes in too many of our children. Much too often, society labels those dark eyes as signs of meanness and evil. These are mean kids who will become evil people. We build man-made structures out of brick, mortar, and steel and place them behind those walls. Out of sight, out of mind, in the name of keeping our community safe. Relighting the flame requires patience, compassion, empathy, and love. Sharing our light with them, relying on our common humanity, we build trust and we make a connection. Chip away at the armor, one small piece at a time. Tragically, sometimes the light never comes back. The spirit withers and the soul dies. At such times, my own faith weakens. Thankfully, and more often, the wall begins to crumble, and we see a flicker of light, a spark that leads to a bonfire. Suddenly, the flame shines brightly once again. The eyes come alive. It is those moments that energize me, refresh me, motivate me, and cause me to rejoice in the power of the human spirit and in the light inside of us, which all these young people have.
Hello, everyone. My name is Milady Gonzalez, and I, along with Marcela, have had the honor to work with these students. And I just have to tell you that what Judge Camacho has done with these kids has been amazing. I've never met any judge in my life who has so much love and caring and compassion for these students, or not even students, they're like adults, young adults also. Thinking about the light within, I just wanted to let you know that working with them has been an incredible experience, because to see them come to the workshop and not saying one word for the first 3 weeks to get them to speak or even say if my words have the power was so hard. But after you hear them, you're going to say, wow, it's incredible. It is very touching. So we have 3 readers today. Actually, we have 4. And the first reader is Grant, who is not able to be here today. And we have Alex, who's going to be reading his piece. Alex.
Hello, my name is Alexander Cruz Reyes. I'm one of the youth advisors for Herstory. I'm going to be reading one of the pieces today for a student who wasn't able to make it. There was one thing I could say about him is behind that big, wide grin that he has, you never really know what someone's experienced. The names and location in the story have been changed for the privacy of the people and for their protection. The story is titled Summer Math Books. I was around 8 years old while I was doing my summer workbooks that my mom would get me to get myself ready for the next grade. I hated doing them at the time, but me looking back at it really helped me. It helped me get into the next grade. I don't remember the grade I was going into, but I was doing math and my pencil broke. When that happened, my first thought was to go see if Ashley, my sister, had a pencil for me to use. I looked inside her room. She wasn't in there. Looked inside my mom's and my stepfather Jalen's room, and no one was in there. And that was weird because he was supposed to be in there. So I started looking all around my house in Baldwin. Went to my stepsister Gianni's room. No one was in there. Looked inside the basement. No one was in there. Looked inside the living room, and no one was there. Now at this point, I started to freak out because where in the heck did Amber and Gianni go? And then I looked inside my oldest stepsister Katie's room, and there I saw him raping her. When he noticed that I opened the door, he looked back and slammed that door. And I was standing in the doorway because I was starstruck at what I saw.
Next up, we have a story written by Gianna, who couldn't be here with us today, so Hannah Solis will be reading it for her.
Hello everyone, I'm going to be reading for Gianna Houston. This story is called Plant Bigger Flowers. Growing up, I felt alone, even though I had a loving family surrounding me. I remember when I felt sad, not knowing who to talk to about my feelings. Do I talk to my grandparents who are in the other room? Do I Skype call my mom in Florida? Do I call my other grandma so I can talk to her and my dad? I did talk to all of them, but it didn't help, because I couldn't fully tell them how I feel. How do I tell my parents they're the reason I feel like this? I hated hurting other people's feelings, especially my parents, even though that's all they did. So I just kept everything to myself, which is what I did with everyone's feelings when they vent to me. My mom convinced me and everyone else that she was ready to be a mom again, so I moved in with her. Boy, did I regret that. I've never had to hide my feelings more than when I entered into 7th grade. At a semi-healthy friend group, I started to like school and talk to people about how I feel, even just a little bit. The 6th period bell rang. I got comfortable in class and started to relax and focus on my breathing. The phone rang in my class. They wanted me in the guidance office. My heart felt like what is beating out of my chest. My whole body was shaking with adrenaline. I got to the office unexpectedly fast. I started to walk to my counselor's room, but the secretary told me to stop. I was so confused. You're needed in the social worker's office, sweetheart. Social worker? I walked into her office. She smiled unsettlingly. I sat down and she introduced herself. Then she began to tell me that I was there because my friends were worried about me. What? Suddenly it made sense. The lights dimmed. My eyes were watering. My legs and arms felt dead and numb. I knew exactly why I was there, and so did she. She knew, I knew, what was going to happen, but I was hoping and praying I didn't know. Her words were muffled until I heard the dreaded words. Can you roll up your sleeves for me and flip your arms to your wrists? Who told on me? That was all I could think about. My blood was boiling. I slowly walked towards her and my sleeves rolled up, arms gushing blood and dripping on the floor. That was my blood. I couldn't blame it on anyone else. I begged her not to tell my mom, a fear what was going to happen when I got home. At least I had time, or so I thought. But sooner or later, I had to come face to face, toe with toe, with the front door. Hearing the footsteps of my mother coming down the stairs, I didn't even have to knock. The door skinned my nose, and all I could see was my mother's wrinkled forehead and her empty eyes. She smiled at me, gave me a hug, and then said, "You're really my mini-me." What the hell does that even mean? She wasn't mad. She was happy. For the first time ever, I seen my mother happy about something I did. She was proud of me. Finally, I started to crave the feeling of the sharp, cold metal blade ripping open my skin and watching my tan skin turn red. Every single day, feeling like this made me feel better. Knowing I had scars helped me fight a bigger battle than I could remember, which is putting a smile on my face so my friends and family could be happy. But no matter what, I could never make everyone happy at once. I thought it was my fault, and sometimes when I'm up late at night alone with my thoughts, I still feel like it's my fault. But as I wake up every morning in recovery, I remember the main reason why I had to cut myself open. It was to make other people feel better. It was because I never wanted anyone to feel alone like I did. So I took mine and everyone else's feelings, and I wrapped it into all one tiny little blade that made such a big difference. The hardest lesson I've had to learn and teach myself is if people want to plant thorn seedlings in the back of your head, grab the reeds by the root and plant bigger flowers in your own head before you have no more soil to plant them in.
Our next piece is by Damien Lawrence.
Hello, my name is Damien Lorenz. Today I'll be presenting a story called Why Can't I Listen? Why can't I listen? Why I constantly ask myself, why for all the problems I deal with? At a moment of the lowest version of myself, I stare at the ceiling on my bed where I ask myself, why don't I listen? And why I can't do what's simply asked of me? Looking down at my feet, then my hands, I start to think to myself. My mind's racing. My breath starts to get heavier. The thoughts in my head telling me, why? And you have no one, as I simply wish someone would just be there for me. Earlier, I had just come back from court, and I was told I had violated probation and I would be placed on house arrest. Coming back to the emotions I was feeling that night, I jumped out of my bed and heard a knock at the door. I went and opened the door, and 2 GPS probation officers were standing in front of me. They asked for Damien Lorenz. I told them that's me, and they said, we're gonna need you to lift your pant leg up. As they put my ankle monitor on, I began to feel empty. Not because I'm sad I can't leave my house. I felt empty that day because all I can think about is where my life is heading. That night, my mind kept wandering, and in that moment, a switch flipped in me. Thank you. 2
Next up, we have Jalissa Villalta.
My name is Jalissa. When my parents got divorced, it was really hard for me. It was a new change, and I did not know how to cope with it. It made it difficult for me to focus on anything, and I lacked motivation. I struggled getting up for school, and I was not getting good grades in any of my classes. Eventually, it got to the point where the court had to get involved. Waiting a long period of time for my name to be called felt unnecessary because I could have prevented that by going to school. This made me realize that this is not how I want to live my life. Although I was going through a tough situation, I prayed to God to guide me through it all.
I was thinking this morning about the call to action. So over my coffee, I wrote a very brief piece. One of the founding principles of Herstory is addressing the cracks in the Liberty Bell. One such crack is how our communities treat young people whose suffering has caused the light inside of them to dim. How do we fix this crack? It is indeed a daunting task. The Herstory methodology gives us one answer: writing. Writing down our experiences, good and bad, our doubts, our mistakes, our concerns, all that has caused us pain, leads us to self-reflection. It gives us comfort, eases our suffering, and leads to self-healing. Then, once we begin to confront our own inner turmoil, we become empowered and share our stories with others. The power of our stories change hearts and minds. It is the cement that begins to repair the cracks in the Liberty Bell. All of you, young people especially, find those among us who are unable to speak for themselves, the marginalized, the mistreated, the forgotten, the abandoned, and the betrayed. Be their voice. Then help empower them to find their own voice. Finally, encourage them to use their own voices to help others. This never-ending cycle of love, compassion, and humanity is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Be a voice for change.
I wanted to say, if my words had a power to change lives, I'd advise everybody to always be respectful and nice, no matter if you know the person or not, but always be willing to ask someone how their day is and listen to them, because everybody has words that they may not want to say, but they really are just hurting inside or not comfortable speaking up to people. So always be nice to people, because you don't know what that person's going through, and you don't know if that's their last day on this earth.